welcome to Stories by the Campfire, brought to you by Tsanev Bushcraft. I'm Ilko Tsanev, survivalist, adventurer, and founder of Tsanev Bushcraft. In this podcast, I share personal stories from my survival experiences, real life moments that taught valuable lessons about resilience, nature, and the human spirit. Occasionally, I'll recount stories from others, always giving credit where it's due. Some of these accounts have been dramatized for a more immersive listening experience. At Tiny Bushcraft, we're all about helping you develop the mindset, skills, and confidence to thrive in nature. We offer online and in person survival and bushcraft courses, expeditions, and personalized consultations. My new book, How to Survive and Have an Epic Adventure, is out now. Grab your copy and take your skills to the next level. Available on Amazon Kindle and print on demand, as well as a PDF download directly from our website, sanevbushcraft.com/book. That's sanevbushcraft.com/book. Check it out, it's amazing. Join our community at adventures.sanevbushcraft.com and connect with fellow explorers to learn more, get access to exclusive content, and share your expertise. So, gather around the campfire, it's time for a story. In this episode, I share a personal survival campfire story, and it's about a captain's resolve when the ocean calls for surrender. After listening, let me know in the comments, do you agree with my actions in the story, or would you have done things differently? The Atlantic does not move, it breathes, a slow, heaving force that swells and collapses, exhaling through waves that stretch endlessly, disappearing beyond the horizon. At night, the ocean is black infinity, swallowing everything into a void where the sky and sea fuse into one. During the day, it is a restless, living creature, shifting from deep sapphire blue to slate gray, its moods dictated by the unseen hands of wind and current. This far from land, there is no refuge. The ocean does not care if you are strong or weak, prepared or reckless. It is the oldest adversary, the one you can never truly conquer. I grip the helm, steadying my course at 260 degrees, following the old trade route Las Palmas to St. Lucia. This route was legendary. It was the path of the ancient navigators, the early explorers, the merchants who harnessed the trade winds to cross the Atlantic century ago. Now it was my path, the one I had dreamed of taking. The Yacht Tangra slices through the waves, its bow rising and falling with the rhythmic pulse of the ocean. Due for 56 exclusive, my home, my freedom, my ticket to a life untethered. She is a 17-meter, 56 feet beast, built for crossing oceans with both power and grace. Twin helms, sleek and commanding, expansive teak decks that gleamed under the sun, electric winches controlling massive sails, technology that allowed one sailor to command her alone. A hydraulic swim platform at the stern, dropping down like a drawbridge into the sea. This yacht was designed to turn heads at mariners and leave them behind on the open water. For over a year, we had sailed her down from the United Kingdom, each port a new chapter: Spain, Portugal, the Canaries. She had carried us through fierce gales and dead calm waters, through repairs and setbacks, through moments of pure awe and total exhaustion. Now she was carrying us across the Atlantic, and for the first time in a long time, I was allowing myself to dream beyond this crossing. This journey wasn't just about getting to the Caribbean. It was the beginning of something bigger. I had plans, we had plans. I had spent years trading stability for adventure, routine for freedom. This was our life now, our dream. My wife, my son, my daughter, we were sailing the world together. No chains, no 9 to 5. Just the horizon ahead and the freedom to chase it. The ocean was our home, and I had no intention of stopping here. South America, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean. This wasn't just a crossing, it was the first of many. Yes, the last week had been rough. Storms, heavy winds, days of battling the sea. But now the skies had cleared. The wind had been steady but manageable. For 2 whole days, the ocean had shown us mercy, and I dare to believe it would stay that way. Even as I steered, Tangra humming beneath my fingertips, I thought, maybe the worst was behind us. Maybe, just maybe. The ocean would finally let us through. The two volunteers were below deck, resting. They weren't experienced sailors, they were here to learn, to help with shifts. Their real job? To keep watch while I slept. They relied on the autopilot for most of their shifts, but here at the helm, I was always aware the ocean doesn't care about autopilot. And deep down, I knew when it truly mattered, I had to rely only on my knowledge and experience. This was my ship and the home of my family, our journey. The sun hangs low, a molten disk melting into the horizon. The wind is a steady breath, filling the sails with a whisper of power. The waves are rolling, gentle but deceptive. Everything feels right, everything feels good, and yet I should have known better because soon the ocean was about to test me. More than 1,000 nautical miles behind us, nearly 1,700 ahead. Another morning at the helm, another routine. The Atlantic stretches endlessly before me, a rolling battlefield of blue and white. The wind is steady, the sky a vast and indifferent canvas. But I know better than to let my guard down. We are alone out here. No passing ships, no land in sight, no backup. Just us and the ocean that never stops testing us. Every morning, before settling into the long hours of sailing, I conduct a safety check. A ritual as crucial as breathing. Not that I can't do it myself, but I have two volunteers on board, and a long voyage can drain even the strongest mind. Keeping them occupied, keeping them engaged, it helps. Port side, starboard side, I call out to them. Each crew member clips their tether lines to their life vests and to the jackstays, lifelines running fore and aft across the deck and the port and starboard sides. This is non negotiable. Even in calm waters, no one leaves the cockpit without being clipped in. The Dufour 56 Exclusive is a beast of a yacht, 56 feet or 17 meters long, over 30 tons in weight. A fall overboard would mean a difficult, time critical retrieval. Not that we wouldn't try, but in these waves, it would be near impossible to get close to the victim fast and safely enough. Each of my crew's life vests is fitted with an automatic man overboard signal device. If they fall, they immediately appear on my plotter. But still, I take every precaution necessary to prevent that from ever happening. I watch as they move carefully down each side of the deck, gripping the safety railings, shaking the shrouds lightly, scanning the mast for anything loose, for cracks, stress damage, loose bolts, checking the spreaders and other parts of the mast and mainsail. They reach the jib at the bow, checking the ropes, the furling system, the self-tacking track, jib car end stops. All clear. They turn, giving me the signal, thumbs up. I nod back. Routine, predictable, safe. Or so it seems. Something gnaws at me, a feeling, a whisper at the back of my mind. I've been feeling subtle jerks for the past few days, barely noticeable, just a slight shift in motion whenever the self-tacking jib swings from port to starboard. And then there is the noise, a deep, unsettling thump every time the wind shifts direction. Not the usual thump of the jib sheet car when it hits the end stops. Something different, something wrong. I scan the ocean ahead, my mind working through the possibilities. The gut feeling isn't enough, I need to check for myself. I want to double check, I say without hesitation. I engage the autopilot, testing its stability, it holds. I unclip my tether from the anchor point at the helm. I clip myself to the jackstay on starboard. The two crew members follow my lead, clipping onto the jackstay lines on the port side. We move forward. Every step is measured, one hand always on the railing, one foot always secure. First, I check the rigging. Shrouds tight, mast secure. I glance up at the forestay, no slack, no looseness. Then I crouch and inspect the jib sheet car, then the starboard jib car end stop, and my stomach sinks. It's loose, too loose. The boats, four large, heavy duty boats designed to hold the stop in place, are failing. I call out to the crew, check yours. They do. Same problem. The threads have been stripped. The car stop is hanging by a literally thread. One more heavy slam against the stop and it's done. I exhale, already calculating the risks. If we lose those boats completely, the self-tacking jib will be useless. No ability to control tacking, no way to stabilize the forward sail. I send one of the guys back to the cockpit for the toolkit. I try tightening the bolts myself. They're staying in place, but I can't really tighten the stops enough. They stay loose. Same on both sides. The threads are nearly gone. The bolts simply would roll over if I put too much pressure, and then we lose the stops completely. They won't hold. I force myself to think. I could retap the threads and use larger bolts, but I don't have any of the specific tools required, nor larger bolts. Even if I find larger bolts, they will get worn out after a short while as well, since the force of the jib car hitting the stops is enormous. I have an easier solution, and it's not perfect, but it will work. I will use a spare rope and tie the jib sheet from its end to the portside midship cleat, preventing from running on the track and damaging the stops any further. Yes, it will definitely make our lives more difficult having to adjust this manually if we need to change the tack, but it will work Not when we reach port, but by then I can probably just use my engine. So, problem solved, so I thought. I continue my inspection. I glanced up at the chip and I see the other thing that has been bothering me. I was feeling a tension in the furling line and the winch much more than usual every time we furrowed and unfurrowed the jib or when adjusting it. I didn't pay attention as we have electric winch, so you can't really feel the tension. But I have done this hundreds, if not thousands of times, so I knew something was off. The furler mounting bracket looks off, bent slightly, distorted by pressure. The roller drum is misaligned as well, no doubt as a consequence of that. I mutter a curse under my breath. It's worse than I thought, much worse. This isn't just about the bolts anymore. The bracket supporting the jib's furling system has bent. That means we can no longer furrow or unfurrow it properly. If we continue, this can cause a serious tension in the forestay to which the jib is secured, and the forestay can then cause a catastrophic failure to the mainmast as it is connected to it as well. The use of the jib had become a dangerous liability. I had no choice but to furrow it in completely, locking it down. From this point on, the jib was out of the equation, which meant we now had to rely on only one sail, the main sail. The jib's collapse explained, which was a system falling apart. The self-tacking jib, our forward sail, was crucial for maintaining balance and keeping us on course. Unlike traditional jibs, which is the front sail, a self-tacking jib moves automatically during tacks, which means the turns or change of direction of the boat. It slides along a curved rail on the deck just before the main mast called jib sheet track, pivoting seamlessly as the yacht changes direction. This also means that the self-tacking front sails, jibs, are shorter and slightly smaller than a traditional front sail. Designed for ease, especially in rough seas, it eliminates the need for crew to manually adjust the sail during tacks. It meant I can operate my huge yacht on my own, especially with the help of an autopilot and the electric winches by the helm. But in brutal conditions, this convenience comes with a deadly price. For days, 50-knot winds and shifting waves had pummeled the jib sheet car, the metal claw that secures the end of the jib to the truck, slamming it hard against the jib car and stop metal blocks with molded hard rubber on the outside at either end of the curved track. They prevent the jib car from leaving the rail track. Each time the wind swung it violently against those stops, the bolts holding them in place were severely strained. The threads on the tracks to which they were secured started to get stripped and worn out. If those bolts failed, the jib would be useless. But there was a bigger problem. The bracket supporting the jib's furler had bent. That had caused the furling roller, the device that controls the furling line that pulls in and out the jib, the front sail, that furls it and unfurls it. It had caused it to misalign as well. This created an enormous friction every time we tried to pull out the jib or put it in, to a point where it would have either jammed or the line would have snapped, leaving it to flap in the wind and damaging it further without the option to use it. Not to mention that the stress put on the actual forestay, the front steel wire rope that holds the jib but also keeps the main mast from falling backwards and keeps it upright, the stress on it was far too great and was risking to cause a catastrophic failure on the whole rigging of the yacht. That meant we could no longer furrow or unfurrow it properly. nor that we could afford to continue doing so given the risk. Just a quick note here. I understand that the technical details, especially the maritime terminology, is is a lot here, but bear with me. Even for experienced sailors, if you haven't been on a yacht with automatic or with self-tacking jib, then probably will be a little bit difficult to understand. But bear with me. I promise the rest of the story has very minimal similar technical details. And if you have any questions or anything is unclear, I'll be happy to answer in the comments. Let's continue with the story. I step back behind the helm, the familiar weight of responsibility settling over my shoulders. The ocean stretches before us, an endless rhythm of motion, rolling waves, steady and predictable for now. The wind is sitting at 18 to 20 knots, steady, not dangerous, but fast enough to keep us moving. I check the instruments. The yacht holds course 260 degrees, the well-worn path of the old trade routes, the very same ones used by sailors for centuries. We are following their legacy, Las Palmas to St. Lucia, the crossing of dreams. We are slower now, relying only on the mainsail. But I tell myself that I have sailed many times just with the mainsail, and despite the huge distance that remained, I can deal with it. I grip the helm, my thoughts drifting to the months leading up to this moment. This vessel, our Dufour 56 exclusive, Tangra, has been our home, our sanctuary. She has carried us across thousands of miles of open sea, through storms, through endless sunrises and sunsets. We have fought for her. Repairs in the United Kingdom, adjustments in Spain, reinforcements in the Canaries. Every detail meticulously checked, every precaution taken. And despite the battles, the exhaustion, the high stakes challenges we had faced, this was the dream. This yacht wasn't just about sailing, it was about freedom. It was about seeing the world with my wife, my daughter, my son, giving them experiences no classroom, no book, no job in the world could ever replace. We had made it this far, and now, for the first time in days, I allow myself to breathe. The past week had been relentless 50-knot winds, massive waves, the ongoing mental toll of watching every detail, every change, every possible risk. But now the worst must be behind us. The last 2 days have been smooth, no unexpected storms, no punishing shifts in the sea. I allow myself to believe, just for a moment, that it will stay this way. I exhale, gripping the helm, watching the deep blue vastness ahead. But then the wind picks up. It starts as a whisper, a subtle shift in the pressure around us. The numbers begin creeping up. 24 knots, then 26. The swell builds, and suddenly we are at 30 knots. This would have been great if I had a working front sail, but without the front jib, the yacht is less stable. Not catastrophic, not yet. The bow, once counterbalanced by the forward sail, is now being dragged by the force of the mainsail alone. We're still moving downwind, the wind at our backs pushing us forward. The boom, the long horizontal beam holding the bottom edge of the mainsail, is fully shifted to starboard. A necessary setup in these conditions, but also one of the most dangerous. This is when accidental jibes happen. A jibe, when the wind suddenly catches the sail from behind, violently swinging the boom from one side to the other, is one of the most dangerous things that can happen on a yacht. An uncontrolled jibe can snap the boom, it can damage the mast, it can knock somebody off board, or worse. Which is why I have already prepared a preventer. A crucial safety rigging is secured from the boom to the bow cleat and back to the stern cleat. This locks the boom in place, preventing any sudden deadly swing. But with the wind rising and the yacht becoming unstable without the jib, I decide to initially furrow in the mainsail first slightly, maybe by 25 to 30%, just enough to reduce the strain, just enough to keep control. As soon as I called the crew to help, the wind seems to be picking up even above 30 knots. So I decided to furrow it in to 40% of the sail just in case, despite that we would be going slower. One crew member eases the preventer, which is the rope that's preventing the boom to swing violently in case of the wind going behind it. So one crew member eases the preventer, loosening it slightly to relieve pressure. Another moves to the winch, preparing to pull the boom toward the center line so that we can furl it in. I stay at the helm, eyes fixed on the mainsail. The sail is at the center, flapping. Flappy sail and happy sail, they say. I hit the winch control. The mainsail begins furling in. And then I see it. A kink. A crease. No, a fold. The middle section of the sail is not rolling in smoothly. It is bending. The sail is rolling into the mast with a twist, the material folding over itself, layering unevenly inside the mast's hollow chamber. At first it looks fine. The mainsail towers above us, still catching the wind, still holding steady. No damage, no rips, nothing that suggests failure. But now that I see it, I can't unsee it. And as I furrow it in the sail just a little more, the problem worsens. The fold becomes thicker, uneven, jagged. This is bad. The in-mast furling system, a disaster waiting to happen. Tangra uses an in-mast furling system, meaning that the mainsail, the big sail in the middle of the yacht, attached to the main mast, to the big mast, the mainsail rolls inside the hollow mast instead of being lowered down like a traditional sail. When fully unfurled, the sail looks normal, but a small crease in the center. But when I try to furl it in, the fold reveals itself. It doesn't roll in smoothly, it folds over itself, forming a thick uneven layer inside the mast. A hidden nightmare. One that only reveals itself when it's too late. If the sail jumps while partially open in strong winds, we'd be ripped apart. If it jumps fully furrowed, we'd be left drifting, powerless. I clench my jaw. This is worse than I thought. One mistake, one wrong gust, one moment of miscalculation, and we wouldn't survive the next storm. Now, of course, if it gets jumped, I can try and ease out the halyard and with the crew's help to manually pull the sail out from the bottom at the boom. I can try many things once we have a failure. Will it work? Not very likely, more likely to cause more damage. To the sail, rip it or tear it, to the mast, to the boom. I'm not a rigger and we're not in a marina. I have no stability here in the open ocean, where if you do not constantly move forward, the boat starts to rock side to side like crazy. Repairs around the mast, climbing, these are not within our abilities here. If it jumps with these powerful electrical winches that we have, manual unrolling is certainly out of the question. This didn't happen just now. The symptoms must have been creeping in for weeks without anyone noticing. I think back to Las Palmas before we set off. The mainsail had been taken down for reinforcements, extra stitching and reinforcement added to the leech, glue, head, and tack to prepare for the long crossing. The riggers and sailmakers had reinstalled it, rolling it back into the mast and hoisting it up on the halyard before we left. They must have positioned it incorrectly, just slightly misaligned. At first, the difference would have been imperceptible, a slight crease, a minor misalignment, but over thousands of miles as we furrowed and furrowed the sail, each time it rode in, the problem grew worse until now. Now it was a fully formed sail overwrap. Now it was a serious danger. And now I have to figure out how to deal with it, how to prepare for anything worse. Am I prepared to deal with not one but two disasters at once, though? First the Jeep, now this. The Atlantic doesn't care. It doesn't care if we're prepared or not. It doesn't care if we have thousands of miles left to go. It doesn't care about dreams or plans or the freedom I have fought for. All it cares about is the next move, the next storm, the next wave, the next gust, and whether or not we're strong enough to survive it. I exhale, staring at the twisted fold of the mainsail, my hands gripping the helm. We have no forward sail. And now the mainsail is a ticking time bomb. The ocean is not finished testing me. Not yet. I glance toward the cockpit. They have no idea. My wife sits on the port side bench, legs stretched out, one arm resting on the teak table, her hair pulled back, catching the golden streaks of the afternoon sun. She is smiling, her eyes relaxed, watching our daughter play. Our daughter, only 4 years old, sits beside her, swinging her legs, gripping one of her stuffed animals, one she insisted on bringing from home, her own little piece of comfort on this vast and endless ocean. She giggles, pointing at something in the water, some imagined shape in the waves. My 11-year-old son leans against the closed companionway. He is in his own world with his small folding knife in hand, carving something into a piece of driftwood he found at the beach in Las Palmas, the same way I used to do as a kid. His face is calm, his mind somewhere else, as if the Atlantic was just another playground. The two volunteers, our temporary crew, sit opposite them. One stares at the horizon, lost in thought. The other sips from a bottle of water, scrolling through old photos on his phone, despite knowing there's no signal out here. No one sees it. None of them realize what just happened. They trust me. They believe I have everything under control. They believe we are safe. And for the first time in this journey, I feel it. A weight deep in my stomach like a hard knot of cold iron. I put them here. This is my responsibility. My dream led them onto this yacht into the open Atlantic, thousands of miles from land. If something happens, it's on me. Not the ocean, not the yacht, not fate or bad luck, me. I glance back at the mainsail. I know what needs to be done. I know the risks, but I can't tell them, not yet, because panic is a disease. It spreads, it infects, it clouds the judgment. And right now I need clarity. If the mainsail fails completely, if we lose it the way we lost the jib, we will not sink, we will not capsize, but we will be dead in the water. A 56-foot yacht floating helplessly left to the mercy of the currents. I Check the navigation screen, my mind calculating. Current speed of the yacht 6 knots. If we lose the mainsail, 1 knot at best, drifting. 1 mile per hour. At that speed, we would not make landfall in time. We would drift for many weeks, months. 6 people on board, burning through supplies at a catastrophic rate. Food would run out. We could try to fish. Yes, I have fishing poles, but how many fish we have caught in the last 1 week? 3 at the most. And we lost a lot of our hooks and sinkers already in the process. Water would run out. We have a desalinator, a device that converts seawater into drinkable water, but it runs on power. Without the engine running regularly to charge the batteries, we would be rationing every sip. Every bite of food would have to be measured. We are not completely alone. We have a satellite phone, limited in bandwidth, slow, expensive, but functional. We have a satellite modem, enough to send texts, emails, basic communication. And we have the ARC tracking device. The Atlantic Rally for Cruisers, ARC, is the organized transatlantic sailing event we are part of. Tracks us as well. Our location is logged. Relatives back home can see our position mile by mile. If we disappear, people will know where we last were. But knowing isn't saving. Right now, there are no vessels on the AIS and on my physical radar. Nothing within range. That could change. Cargo ships do pass through these waters, tankers, yachts. I haven't seen any for many days, but it is unpredictable. And even if a vessel does appear on radar or AIS, they will have to be really, really close. My radar has a max range of 24 nautical miles, the AIS even less, just about 20. The VHF radio max 50. A freighter might be 100 miles away, but we would never be able to call for help. I could try channels 16 or 9 and others on my radio, but would anyone hear me? Would anyone even respond? Would they divert their course for a yacht stranded in the middle of nowhere? And then there is the final option, a helicopter rescue. Helicopters, however, have a range of 600 miles. Right now, we are far beyond their reach. But if I burn the remaining fuel in our tanks, I could push us closer. I could shorten the distance. Would it be enough? I don't think so. I don't know. But I know one thing for certain. The reality is cold and absolute. If we lose this mainsail, we might not reach land. That means I have a choice to make, the hardest choice of my life. And for the first time since setting sail, the weight of that realization is unbearable. The moment stretches endlessly before me like the horizon itself, limitless, yet suffocating. The yacht moves steadily through the water, but my mind is racing ahead to every possible future, every possible outcome. I have a decision to make, and it is a choice between two evils. Option 1, tell them everything. Tell them the truth, that we are down to one working sail, that this last working sail could also fail at any moment, that if a storm catches us, we could be left completely helpless, drifting at the mercy of the Atlantic's currents. If I do this, we will start rationing food and water immediately. I will make every resource stretch as long as humanly possible. But there is another cost, panic. My crew members are inexperienced. My children are too young to grasp what this means. My wife, though strong, does not yet see the severity of this situation. The moment I reveal the reality of our predicament, everything changes. I will be injecting fear into this voyage, and fear is a disease. It spreads, it infects, it makes people weak. And most of all, it makes people lose faith in the abilities of the skipper. That can cause people questioning working commands, the rationing of food, adversity amongst the crew. Would you do it? Would you sit your family down and tell them the food on their plates might be their last full meal? Would you tell them, would you tell your wife that if the mainsail jumps, we might drift for weeks or months, even longer than our supplies can last? Would you tell your children, who are laughing now, that the very ocean they have come to love is turning against us? Or option 2, say nothing. Keep everything as it is. Let them remain unaware, unburdened. Let them go on eating and drinking normally while I alone carry the weight of the truth. Let them believe this journey is still under control while I study every gust of wind, every strain on the sail, every shift in the Earth's movement. In doing so, I give them peace. I prevent fear from taking root. But I also risk everything. Because if the mainsail fails completely, if we are forced to drift aimlessly in the ocean, then we will all still be on the boat, but our food and water could already be dangerously low. What would you do? Would you tell them? Would you keep it a secret? Or would you tell just one of them or just some of them, splitting the burden between yourself and someone you trust? I grip the helm tighter. My stomach feels a second iron knot forming with the weight of this choice. This is the moment every captain dreads. I exhale, steadying my breath. The Atlantic is vast, merciless. It does not care for my dilemmas. If the mainsail fails completely, we will be left adrift, moving at barely 1 knot per hour. 1 knot per hour. We have 1,700 nautical miles left to go. At that speed, we will never make it. We have food, we have water, but not enough to drift for weeks on end, most probably months, hoping for a miracle. And then comes the second, harsher truth. A rescue helicopter's range is 600 miles. We are far beyond that. No helicopters will come. And that is the moment I must prepare for. The ocean demands a sacrifice, and I had already chosen. I stare out at the open sea, no land, no rescue, no margin for error. Somewhere ahead, far beyond the horizon, a safe harbor awaits. But between us and safety lies the worst gamble of my life. Right now, no vessels are nearby, but that could change. If we survive long enough, we may cross paths with a freighter, a cargo ship, anything that can take my family to safety. If it comes to that, I will get them off this yacht. I will call for help. I will hail a passing ship. I will evacuate my wife, my children, and the 2 volunteers. But I will not go with them. Not because I want to die, not because I think I am stronger than the ocean, but because I cannot give up this ship, even if it means staying alone on a broken yacht adrift in the vast Atlantic, even if it means dying out here. Because I am the captain, and abandoning this ship would mean surrendering the very dream that brought us here. Some might call it foolish, some might say survival is about self-preservation, but I do not surrender dreams. This yacht isn't just fiberglass and rope. It is our home. It is everything we worked for. It is our dream of a free life, a life of travel and adventure, a life unconstrained by the ordinary world. To abandon it would be to abandon everything I believe in. And if I have to fight the Atlantic for every last mile, so be it. With the jeep gone, we are left with only the mainsail. But there is a problem. The furling system has a warp. One mistake, just one, and the sail could jam. If it jams fully open and a storm hits, we will be torn apart. If it jams fully shut and the wind dies, we will be left drifting, motionless, helpless, waiting to die. So I do the only thing I can. I become a machine. I live by the wind. I adjust the sail in fractions, never furling it too far, never letting it out completely. I keep tension on the main sheet when furling and unfurling. I don't leave anything to chance. All our other winches are electric, but luckily, for whatever reason, the winch on the mainsail is manual. The one that really needed most to be electric in normal times. But because this one is the only one manual winch on board, I'm able to be extremely precise with the folding and unfolding of the mainsail. Inch by inch, no, millimeter by millimeter. I count every shift in pressure, every gust, every whisper of a coming storm. I do not ration food. I do not ration water. Not yet. Because I have made my choice. They will not know. Not yet. I barely sleep, stealing minutes at a time before waking to adjust the sails, and I never let go of the helm because I know no one is coming. No rescue was coming. We were alone. Somewhere deep in the back of my mind, I know the truth. The Atlantic has taken better men than me. It whispers in the night, in the creak of the ropes, in the groaning of the mast. Surrender, give in, let go, let the waves decide. But I refuse, because this is not where we end. People think survival is just about knowing how to build a fire, how to purify water. But the real test, it is in the moment when you stand face to face with hopelessness and refuse to kneel. I have already decided. Even if it means pushing forward on nothing but sheer will, I will see my family safely to shore. A week goes by, desperate, dark. A week of insanity. Then another, even darker, even more insane. The ocean indifferent as usual. Then the ocean changed. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first. The swell became gentler. The wind lost some of its bite. The scent of land grew stronger. I knew then we will make it. Not because we're lucky, not because we have the best equipment. The ocean wanted me to break, but I refused to let go. And that is survival. The night swallows us whole. No moon, no stars, just a black abyss stretching to infinity. The wind howls through the rigging like a warning, and the waves, no longer our adversary, but not yet our ally, whisper their last threats against the hull. The shore is near. I can smell the damp earth, the promise of land, but I can't see it. Somewhere ahead, jagged rocks lay in wait, invisible in the darkness, ready to shatter the hull in an instant. We drift cautiously, scanning the darkness, and then lights, faint, distant but real. Saint Lucia, the final destination. It is right there, but we are still trapped in the void, in the limbo between the wild and the safe. Massive freighters loom in the night, silent giants. cutting through the blackness like specters. Their navigation lights blink methodically, indifferent to the tiny, exhausted yacht edging into their domain. The wind screams against my ears, but beneath it, I could hear the deep hum of engines that wouldn't stop for a speck like us. We had come too far to fail now. Every decision is life or death, every shift in the wind a potential disaster. I grit my teeth, steering with every ounce of focus left in my body. The weight of weeks at sea presses down on me, but I force it aside. No time for fatigue, no time for doubt. It's in the middle of the night. The marina is out of the question, winds too strong, waves too erratic. One wrong move and we'd be dashed against the coastline, mere meters from safety, but swallowed whole by the ocean's last cruel joke. We still have to fight through the night, still have to find a way into the marina come morning. But for the first time, I feel it relief. The darkness is no longer an enemy, it is a threshold. On the other side is land, solid and real. The journey isn't over, not yet. But survival is no longer a question. We have won. We come close into the Rodney Bay harbor. The marina is just there, but impossible to enter with the strong side winds. I set anchor in the harbor, just outside among the other yachts. And for the first time in 21 days, Tangra is still. So is my mind. The crew and my family are all ecstatic. Loud cheers, clanking of glasses full with champagne, kept for this one occasion. I have no strength for celebration. I lie down in the skipper's cabin, and for the first time in 2 weeks, I can close my eyes. I drift away. My reward, my celebration. In the relentless theater of the Atlantic, survival is measured not only by skill or luck, but by the choices we make when faced with the impossible odds. I learned that true survival isn't merely about building a fire or purifying water, it's about standing on the edge of the abyss and refusing to yield. At that critical moment, I found myself forced to choose between two evils. On one hand, I could lay everything bare, tell my crew, my family, every soul aboard that our only remaining sail might fail at any moment. That path would force us to ration every morsel, every drop of water, and inject an undercurrent of fear into our journey. Fear, as I discovered, is a contagion. It weakens resolve, undermines trust, and makes even the strongest hearts falter. On the other hand, I could keep the truth locked inside, letting my loved ones continue in blissful ignorance while I bore the full weight of our precarious situation alone. This option, too, carries its own danger because if disaster strikes, we would all suffer the consequences. With our resources intact for now, this decision meant preserving calm and maintaining morale even as I struggled silently with the burden of leadership. In that moment, as I stood at the helm, every shift of the wind and every ominous creak of the rigging hammered home a single unyielding truth. Survival is as much about the choices we make as the storms we endure. It is about knowing who you are when everything hangs in the balance. And it is about recognizing that sometimes the most crucial battle is not against nature at all, but against the fear that threatens to overwhelm you from within. This realization brings me to what I call the three milestones to achieve an epic adventure. That story contains all three of them. Milestone 1: leaving your comfort zone. You cannot truly live if you never step out of what is familiar. Milestone 2, facing and conquering your fears. Growth comes from confronting what terrifies you, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Milestone 3, discovering the true meaning of adventure. This is a personal revelation and understanding that emerges only when you find yourself at the precipice where every decision reveals who you really are. For me, the Atlantic taught me that adventure is not just about excitement, risk, or danger. It is about knowing who you are when everything is on the line. It is about embracing your destiny even when it demands sacrifice. That is what I found on the Atlantic. And now it is your turn. What does adventure mean to you? How far would you go for it? Are you ready to find out? Thank you for listening to Stories by the Campfire. I'm Ilko Tsanev, and I hope today's tale sparked your sense of adventure and curiosity. Don't forget to join our community at adventures.tsanevbushcraft.com for exclusive content, discounts on online and in-person survival courses, expeditions, and more. Grab my book now, How to Survive and Have an Epic Adventure, and explore practical skills alongside powerful stories. Available to purchase on Amazon and directly on our website. Stay connected, stay prepared, and until next time, keep the fire burning.
Omolode,